Good morning. Welcome to a beautiful day in Washington, D.C. I want to tell you that every day is like this in Washington, D.C. So we're used to it. That's why we're here. On behalf of the National Academy of Engineering, I'm pleased to welcome you to our symposium, Issues at the Intersection of Engineering and Human Rights, which will explore the numerous but under-recognized connections between these two fields. My name is John Anderson, and I'm the president of the National Academy of Engineering. Human rights should be a foundation of everything we do. What makes us human versus other animals. We care about people we don't even know about. We care about everybody in a global sense. Now, engineering is about creating what never existed. That's a quote from von Karman. Create what never existed. But when you create what never existed, you have to ask yourself, what are the potential effects on people? And that's what we're here to talk about. Engineering profession must have an awareness of basic human rights when addressing technical issues facing society and the planet, and in developing new technologies. I am very pleased to see a workshop such as this today. Long overdue. The U.S. has 3 government-sanctioned academies devoted to advising the government and public on technical issues: the National Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Engineering, and the National Academy of Medicine. The National Academy of Sciences was chartered by Congress in 1863 to advise the government, typically at that time the military, on technical matters. The NAE was incorporated in 1964 under this charter, so we're part of that original charter. And the NAM, which is formerly the Institute of Medicine, was formed in 1970 and became the NAM in 2015. The National Research Council, the NRC, is the operating arm of the 3 academies. It conducts the studies in response to needs of the government and public. And in fact, the Committee on Human Rights is part of the National Research Council and reports to the 3 academies. The mission of the National Academy of Engineering is to provide advice to the government and public on matters related to engineering and technology, and to advance the profession of engineering. And within the National Academy of Engineering, the Cultural, Ethical, Social, and Environmental Responsibility in Engineering program, which, because we're in Washington, we use an acronym called CSER, is one of the NAE's signature programs. CSER's focus is in 2 areas. First, the integration of cultural, ethical, social, and environmental considerations into engineering practice, the actual integration of those things into practice. And 2, demonstration of how responsible engineering can address society's biggest challenges. To reach its goals, CSER must provide an intersection between the engineering profession and the obligation to protect human rights here and abroad. And today's workshop is in that vein. The Committee on Human Rights is a standing committee, as I said, of the National Research Council. It was created actually in 1976, so it's been here for a while. Members are from the 3 academies. The membership of the committee is from 3 academies, but there are many, many corresponding members that create a much larger group. The committee provides support for colleagues suffering rights abuses and raises awareness of the important connections between human rights and science, engineering, and medicine, including events like this. CHR seeks to mobilize scientists, engineers, and health professionals to promote human rights and advance human dignity worldwide. This symposium is the first, as far as I know, the first formal NAE and CHR collaboration. I'm so pleased to see it happening. And the first NASEM workshop looking at human rights aspects of engineering practice. NAE and CHR share an interest in addressing how new technologies will have a positive impact on society and avoid unintended consequences of these technologies. Very important point. Whether it's the roads you drive on, buildings you live in, the phones in your pocket, the food you eat, or the medical devices you see when you're being treated in a hospital, engineering influences nearly every facet of human life. Interesting to write down all the ways engineering affects you when you get up in the morning, make a diary, and you'd have a lot of pages in your book. Through their work, engineers are in a position, because of this, to either reduce or amplify societal challenges. With this immense influence comes a profound responsibility to approach each innovation thoughtfully, ensuring that that work contributes to a more equitable world. There is much interest in the engineering human rights interface. For example, today the development and use of AI, artificial intelligence, is one, and curbing of climate change and the impact of climate change. This gathering is an opportunity to address difficult questions, and making connections alone, that is, the contact between people, is a large step forward in ensuring that these two fields can work together to build a brighter future. Any discussion on the intersection of engineering and human rights is inevitably complex because of the diversity of the participants. We anticipate a range of perspectives that will be presented at this symposium and envision that constructive engagement with these issues can illuminate the path forward. The people attending this symposium, whether in person or virtually, whether you're a student, professor, researcher, practicing professional or engineer, policymaker, or advocate, you have a role to play in this work. Make use of this opportunity, enjoy the camaraderie, and create the optimism, and I'll emphasize that word optimism, create the optimism we need to move in a positive direction. Before I introduce the leader of our group today, I want to thank the staff that did such a great job from both CHR and the NAE. We owe them a lot, the terrific work that they've done, so thank you very much. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Charles F. Bolden, but you only call him Charles if you're mad at him. Everybody calls him Charlie, okay? He's co-chair of the workshop planning group, and he was elected to the National Academy of Engineering, I quote, for leadership and development of U.S. human spaceflight and space operations programs, and for revitalizing fundamental aeronautics research. He's a former astronaut, and he was a NASA administrator, the NASA administrator for 8 years. He was also a major general in the U.S. Marines and a test pilot. He is co-chair of CSER, and he's done a great job, and we really appreciate him doing that. He's had quite a career. Welcome, Charlie, your lead.
Thank you very much, John, for the very kind introduction. You know, I always tell him, just keep it simple. Just say, here's Charlie Bolden, and everybody has stuff they want to say. But anyway, let me join President Anderson in welcoming everyone to this forum today, for the next 2 days, actually. I especially want to welcome students who are here in person or maybe online, because when you get right down to it, many of us in this room, our time has passed. Now, I don't mean it that way, the way it sounds directly, but there is lots of work to be done, and I think over the next 2 days you will find that the solutions to many of our problems are multi-year, if not multi-decadal, and so we're really going to depend on you, the students who are participating with us today. I want to recognize a group that Dr. Anderson has already referred to, and that's the Planning Committee, and thank them for their cooperation and their contributions. Co-chair Betsy Popkin, Planning Committee members Glenn Dagger, Deb Niemeyer, David Chacon-Hurtado, and Wes Harris. And I think many of them, if not all, are here, so would you please just stand and take a bow or do whatever people do at a time like this. Thank you. And especially, I'm joining John in thanking the incredible staff here. It's a large, well, no, it's not. It's a very effective staff. And key staff members involved in putting this program together are Becca Everly, David Butler, Anna DeRose, Casey Gibson, Nam Vu, and Chessie Briggs. Many of them are here, so please stand and be recognized at this time. But thanks to all of you. Don't know how many of you have ever done, all of you have probably done stuff here at the Academy. You know, they're pretty doggone boom. And they lay out a plan for you, and if you're smart, you follow the plan. Every once in a while, somebody like me comes along with a new idea, and sometimes it stands the test, but most times they've already figured all that stuff out, and so I personally appreciate all they've done. I also want to thank our speakers over the next 2 days, and I hope you will note the varied expertise of the speaker lineup. We've got people in human rights, engineering education, sustainable development, responsible technology. Our agenda and the other meeting materials that you'll need for the next 2 days can be downloaded from the event homepage, or if you don't have a computer and you didn't already do that, we've got them out in the lobby when you got your name tag or whatever else you did, so please pick that up. Special thanks to our luncheon speaker who is not here right now, but I want to thank her because she's just very, very, very special to me, Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson, who was the former president at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, but will also bring us her reflection on the impacts of this very topic, the intersection of engineering and human rights, from her experience as the director of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and then as the president at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. So I personally look forward to her comments. This workshop has a number of goals. Dr. Anderson's already mentioned many of them. It brings together, though, experts to explore how human rights can provide a framework for addressing engineering challenges, such as those related to technology, climate change, equity and privacy, and how engineers can integrate human rights principles into their work. We'll discuss how a human rights perspective can enrich engineering, while also examining how engineering can support human rights efforts. Together, we aim to learn from current initiatives, spark meaningful conversations, build new connections, and identify areas that need more attention from academia, industry, NGOs, and policymakers. With a diverse audience of engineers and non-engineers, I being one of those non-engineers, I'm like the guy that slept at the Holiday Inn Express last night. I am neither a scientist nor an engineer in this august body here, but my 34 years as a warfighter, learning that my job was to keep us out of war, and my 20 years with NASA trying to figure out how we maintain space as a peaceful environment for us to operate has made me have to learn a lot of the stuff that you all went to school and learned over many, many years. Together, we aim to learn from current initiatives, spark meaningful conversations, build new connections, and like I said, identify the need for attention from people with whom we work. With a diverse audience of engineers and non-engineers, we've designed these sessions to be accessible and engaging. Our goal is not to make you experts in human rights, not by any stretch of the imagination, one area of engineering, but to introduce new perspectives and encourage discussions in which everyone can participate. The topics for our discussion over these next 2 days, and if you have your program, you'll see it in there, but today we're going to talk about bridging human rights and engineering, human rights and engineering education. We'll have Dr. Jackson talk to us as our luncheon speaker, pre-luncheon. Then we'll go in the afternoon to engineering to combat climate change impacts, addressing inequities in public infrastructure, civil engineering do a civil engineering interactive exercise, and then give you some time for networking at the end of the day, so you can kind of decompress from what you've heard. Tomorrow we'll have sessions on participation and inclusion, seeking justice and remediating harms, systems and product design, and another participatory exercise to introduce us to the process of conducting human rights assessment of an engineered system. We really need your participation, and I say that in all earnestness. I want to thank you for completing, those of you who did, Thank you for completing the questionnaire, giving us a detailed picture of our diverse audience. Today, we're joined by a range of professionals and students, including educators, human rights experts, policy advisors, data analysts, healthcare professionals, legal experts, environmental scientists, and representatives from nonprofits, government, academia, and industry. Your unique perspectives will greatly enhance our discussion on how human rights framework can intersect with engineering practices. You told us that you were interested in hearing about topics such as applying human-centered design principles to engineering, addressing equity and accessibility challenges in public infrastructure, integrating justice and social responsibility into engineering education, and understanding the unintended consequences of technology development. I believe our speakers today and tomorrow will do a great job of covering these important areas, providing insights into how we can all incorporate human rights considerations into our work. You know, they asked me if I could give a sort of a personal connection to the issue, and I remember becoming a member of the an organization here, headquartered here in Washington, D.C., that deals with human rights around the world, and it's called the Partnership for I forget, not important, but we look at how to do peacekeeping. And I said, but I'm not sure I'm a peacekeeper. You know, I've been a Marine for 34 years, and then I thought about it, and I said, well, no, that's what I've done for 34 years. You know, in the vast majority of my 34 years as an active duty Marine, we were not involved in armed conflict in 34 years, but we did a heck of a lot of of helping people who were suffering from natural disasters or people who were the result of international conflict, and that was our stock in trade, to do that kind of stuff. And I think so I learned a little bit about how I did that. When I came to this organization and agreed to co-chair CSER, I realized almost right away that we were going to introduce a discussion among you engineers that I'm not sure is always talked about when you go through engineering school. You know, you come out and your brain's exploding with all this knowledge you have about engineering, and then when you get into the actual work, you find out that what you're doing is going to impact people. And you know, I was speaking with one of our colleagues here who's up from Arkansas State, and we just happened to talk about his interest is in water, and we talked about it. I found that was a common topic coming out of 20 years living in Houston, Texas, where we were panicking as we noticed the elevation of the airfield, Ellington Field, where we flew all of our NASA airplanes from, was sinking feet over decades. Feet, not inches, feet over decades. And what we discovered was all of our innovative engineering systems and everything, and providing water to everybody, we had pretty much sucked all the aquifers dry in the state of Texas. And so that was good intention, but perhaps we didn't think about the consequences of that. So just one thing two things in which I've been involved that really make me want to hear what we all have to say today. So with that, I just want to emphasize the critical importance of you all participating in the discussions. And there are no dumb ideas. There are no dumb questions, okay? If there are, or if there's some that people think there are, I'll probably be asking them. So don't worry about looking bad. We want to hear everybody's ideas. Let's engage fully these next 2 days and commit to arriving at actionable insights in advancing human rights and engineering.